Hi, this is FreshAir.org, and I'm Eric Berger. Earlier this week, I had a wonderful conversation with Eden, Dashiell, and Freddie of the LA-based indie pop rock band Atta Boy. After releasing their debut record in 2012, Out of Sorts, the band members went separate ways with hopes they'd find a good time to reunite. Well, they have, and we'll be able to hear it on June 26th when their sophomore album, Big Heart Manners, hits streaming services. I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with them about their recording process, stories from their old album, their singles Devoted and Shade off their new album, and about what they've been doing during this strange pandemic. My favorite part of the interview was getting to know them. It's always good to put a face to the names, and they're lovely. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Atta Boy in anticipation of their new album, Big Heart Manners, out June 26th. Enjoy! Firstly, I was wondering how you guys are doing with quarantine and everything. Like, this is such a strange time, and I was wondering if you picked up any hobbies or activities to keep things going.
Eden?
At the beginning of quarantine, I was sewing a lot. I've started sewing masks to donate through a collective here that was getting fabric donated, and then they would kind of disperse it to the people that were willing to sew. So I was kind of like obsessively doing that for the first few weeks, and then other than that, I've been very lucky to have a lot of time to just self-reflect and stuff, and do a lot of retreat style yoga and meditation. So it's been good, but not a lot of hobbies that I hadn't done before, just a lot more sewing than I was doing before.
I mean, mindfulness in a way is a hobby, right?
Yeah, if you've got time for it.
Yeah, I gotta work on that.
Yeah. What about you guys?
I have been enjoying cooking. It was something I was starting before, but definitely have a lot to try more adventurous things. So yeah, some things have gone well, some haven't. Some things have burnt. There have been fires in the grill at some point, but yeah. Other than that, I'm managing the band, and I've had to learn a lot of stuff about how, I studied music business, but I've never really used my knowledge in a practical sense. So it's definitely been a huge difference, actually applying that knowledge in the real world. And it's been cool. I think I've done an okay job so far.
He's done well. He's done a good job.
So, yeah. And Dash.
For my part, I've been doing sort of all the fermentation-y side of stuff that everyone else seems to be doing right now in quarantine. So I've been brewing beer. I've been making pickles. I got a SCOBY so I can start making kombucha, the dirty hipster that I am.
dirty hipster.
It's been fun. It's the kind of stuff that requires you to kind of sit around and wait for a couple of weeks for results. But since we have all the time in the world now, it's not been too bad.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, fermentation just works like that, but it's kind of nice to have something to look forward to, even if it's you're brewing beer, you said?
Yeah.
Even if it's just looking forward to bottling it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, and I just got a SCOBY too, so we're in it together.
Nice.
Actually, going back to Freddie, you're managing the band, and I was actually quite curious about how this all kind of came together because, 2012 was a very different time when you guys released Out of Sorts. YOLO was a thing, Gangnam Style, London Olympics, Obama's running for re-election. It's kind of lovely in that sense. Instagram is new social media. We got wild stuff going on, right? And you guys released Out of Sorts, and it's been 8 years, but over the last few years, the streams on Spotify have risen dramatically. And, Freddie, I know your manager, so I was kind of wondering about how that all played out.
I am not going to take any credit for that, because at that point in time, I wasn't really managing the band. We didn't really have anyone in charge. It was just a whirlwind of, we don't know if we're getting back together. We talked about it, and then it wouldn't happen, and then we were all living in different places, and then all of a sudden, oh, okay. So this is a sad story, but it's kind of funny too. So we had a song in a movie called 5 Feet Apart. And the way that happened was, I was using TuneCore's publishing administration, and apparently someone wanted to use Roadblock 6 Weeks for their movie, and none of us were really actively checking the band email, and apparently she had emailed me or us, and I wasn't responding, and all of a sudden, it's really, really sad. I had to put my dog down. See, this is the part where it gets weird. I posted about putting our dog down on Instagram, and everyone was like, all these comments like, oh, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. I'm so sorry for your loss. And then this one woman comments, please check your DMs, Atta Boy sync inquiry for an upcoming movie. Thanks. And so I checked our email, and it turned out they wanted to license the song for 5 Feet Apart, and then that actually helped us, blew us up in an international sense, because all these people in different countries started seeing like their dubbed languages of that movie, and we gained like you can look on Spotify at playlists for the soundtrack of the movie, and it's like all in different languages and stuff like that. So I think just a shock for Spotify's algorithm and unfortunate comments on Instagram posts really led to us realizing, and Lewis was actually the one who sent the text that was like, hey, we gotta do this, we gotta get it together. And then kind of from that point on, I took on the managerial stuff, and as soon as we all said what days work for us, I booked the studio time immediately, and we made it happen.
Well,
short story long, sorry.
I am so sorry to hear about your dog. That is tragic. And
it was a few years ago. We're good.
Yeah, not the most appropriate setting to slide into your DMs about that track, but we'll let that slide for now, because I'm so glad you guys are coming back. That's so exciting. And yeah, I guess going more towards, like you said, Lewis is the one who got you guys back together, or sent out the initial text. What's the process been like? I know that you, like Eden, you live in New York, right? And you guys live in California. And like, what was the process of getting together and recording? And also, what was it like to be back in the studio together after such a long time? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys started out as friends from high school, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to take it?
Yeah, go for it.
I think when we decided we were gonna record something else, I think all of us had like years and years of little voice memos and just ideas. And we really got into the habit of just sharing those and trying to share whatever into like the group chat, and trying to like slowly build on ideas, but just mostly hear each other's ideas from the last 7 years or whatever, to sort of incorporate all of our different sounds. We also made like a Spotify playlist as like inspiration, which just included, like when I look at that playlist now, I'm like, it's so cool, because there was so many different varieties of sound on there that it's just a neat way to like implement everybody's taste and just sort of get on board with everybody's taste before we go back into the studio. So it was just a lot of like randomly sharing ideas, and then at the point when we were getting together to record, it was just sort of, it was firming down on those ideas that had already been kind of written and completed, and then also mishmashing the ideas to create the new songs that were just sort of born out of like cramming while we had the studio time and just trying to get done. And so it was a weird process that was like super drawn out, and then I look at the recording process and actually getting the songs together and being like, wow, we really pulled some stuff out of our ass to just get some songs done. So, but it's always kind of cool and exciting to see what happens like in that like those last minute circumstances, and just when we're all actually physically together. But I think we were all sort of used to being apart anyway. The first album we wrote a lot of that album apart. I had been lifeguarding up in my hometown, and the boys were down in LA, and they had been getting together and recording stuff and then sending it to me, and then we'd get together and rehearse. So it was kind of a larger scale version of that, and sort of, but yeah, that was also kind of long-winded. Sorry.
Oh no, that was lovely. And it sounds like you guys kind of laid the groundwork while you were apart, so when you came together, you were able to like fully actualize all your ideas, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last before I would say before we went into the studio to record Out of Sorts and then this new album, we probably had like 3 or 4 solid songs completely done. And so we would use some of that studio time, because this time we knew we had like a hard 2 weeks of studio time, and then people were going back to their respective places and heading out, and we would use a lot of that time to just play and bounce ideas off each other. And then once we had the ideas, we'd be like, okay, let's do that. And luckily what we saved is all the guitar overdubbing. I was the last one in the studio, and we'd send them like, oh, I came up with this idea. We send it to them, and they'd be like, no, that sucks. But no. And then we also work with an amazing engineer and producer. His name is Jason Hiller, and he is so good at guiding us, keeping us on track. And so we just gotta, I mean, he doesn't get enough credit for being he's our guru. He's also very good at keeping it simple, and not letting us overthink anything, which is something that I enjoy with our music, that it has like a pretty kind of stripped down for producer or anything, or and he's a large part in that. He doesn't let us get lost in the sauce, or whatever the kids say.
Lost in the sauce.
It's always great when you have someone that doesn't let you get lost in the sauce.
Yes. Yeah. That's all you can ask for these days.
Right. Well, yeah. Speaking, I feel like, when I heard your new song Devoted, which by the way, I'm a huge fan of, it's awesome. I loved how, anytime, the stripped down like production went so well with the vulnerability demonstrated on the track. And I was going to ask a question about whether that was intentional, but it sounds like it was. But do you have any words about making sure that, with your collaboration having happened from afar, and because it sounds like a lot of the songs were written before you guys even were able to get together, all the ideas were thrown out there. Was that a conscious effort to make sure that the instrumentation matched the song material, and how was that process over such a short time frame?
Eden, go for this one. If we're talking about Devoted specifically, that's you.
So I wrote the song back in like early 2016, And so I had brought it to the boys just as like, I wrote this song, and like we tried it live and then just kind of went for it, and ended up using a live version of it for the track, which was really nice, because I think what happens with our songs, and when we all get together, the five of us actually, is that we kind of just trust that it's going to come together. And even though there's a lot of things that, you know, there's very, very different variables that kind of can take shape during the duration of like producing the song or whatever, or just getting it tracked. It really is, we just kind of trust like what happens together and trust the like random ideas that get thrown out there. And so I think that was kind of a lot of what happened with Devoted, was that I just kind of knew that whatever was going to happen, whatever the boys were going to bring to the table was going to be like the thing that the song needed, as like an Atta Boy song. And it was like really kind of joyous to hear that actually come together, because I couldn't have imagined it going any better, or any differently. And then as far as the pedal steel went, I kept like thinking about the sound of a pedal steel on a song, and I felt kind of stupid about it. And then I just kind of kept, I brought up the idea, and Jason, who Freddie was talking about, had a connection to a pedal steel player, Marty Rifkin, who we basically sent the song to just say, like, why not just send it to him? We'll see what he does. We'll let him do his thing. And we got the song back, and it was just like beautiful. It was just such a nice addition to the song. And like, and so I think it really is just like a lot of the process, having not spent a lot of time together musically since the first record, it was just about like really trusting ideas, trusting each other to vote in or vote out different ideas, and yeah, really just having like a lot of trust in the group. So that's that answer.
Yeah, trust is the big word that like the entire time you were talking, I was thinking about, because you wrote that song independently and you brought it to your guys and you said, hey, like, I want to make something using this. And that involves vulnerability and putting yourself out there, and you trusted them. And I'm really happy that you're glad with the output.
Oh, yes.
It sounds lovely.
Thank you.
While we're on Devoted, I saw that you guys made, when you released the song, you put out, or well, I actually think it's quite interesting, because your first album, Out of Sorts, was a Kickstarter album. I found that out in the process of doing this interview. I think that's so cool, and I'd love to hear about what that was like, having an album that started out of a Kickstarter, but also having the lead single for your new album, Big Heart Matters, being a, like, when you put it out as like a link to get donations for No Kid Hungry. And I was wondering what the process of making that decision was like and how that went.
Well, is it okay if I talk about this one?
Yeah, no, this is you for sure.
Okay. So I just think that we were really I don't want to say blessed, because I don't like saying blessed. What's another word that I could use here?
Fortunate?
Lucky.
There's for other reasons I didn't want to say lucky. We were really fortunate to have all of the support and streams that we've gotten from Spotify over the past 8 years, that we had enough money to not have to take out loans or anything to create this new album. And given the circumstances of the world that we're living in right now, we're just like, hey, in my mind, I was just like, hey, the album's called Big Heart Manners. It's about, you know, what better way to, show big heart manners than to donate money for the first weekend of the single being out to feeding kids who are losing meals because they're not able to go to school or daycare or something like that. So, I mean, it was a pretty simple choice. I texted the group and they're like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. And they were all about it. As far as the Kickstarter goes, is it okay if I switch over to talking about that back in the day? Okay, cool. So I, at the time, someone else was helping us out with the band. I don't, it's a confusing, this guy was like living with my family and it's confusing, the whole situation. And I met him through Eden's brother, and he helped us. At that time, he was like helping us get us all together. And he helped us make that video for the Kickstarter that's still up there. His name is Andrew Irvin. I believe now he lives in Fiji. And that's also a whole other long story that he can tell. But he was really helping us out. He was in the studio taking photos of us. And he helped us make the Kickstarter and all the prizes that came along with it. And, him and I would spend hours like making the screen prints on the t-shirts that we gave out. These baseball cards that were the highest donors. And like back then, we were fortunate enough to raise the money to create the album, which I don't know if the rest of the band knows this, but actually wasn't enough money for everything that we did. And we borrowed money from my mom, and I have since been able to pay her back, which she's very happy about. So she's very proud of us for actually going into something where we took out a loan and we were able to pay it back. So it was just amazing to have all these family members who really believed in us, and in backyards or at high school performances, and they wanted us to succeed. And we apparently created something that was worth it. So I don't really know what else happened, but it was amazing to have all those people support us and to continue to support us. A lot of those people are still our parents and friends of family members and stuff like that. And they're still, our number ones, our day ones, which is cool.
That's really cool that you guys had all that support. I'm really glad to hear that. And it's cool that support's still there all 8 years later as you guys prep for the next album. I mean, that's amazing. Yeah. Just while we're on the topic of that Kickstarter, I haven't heard the song, but I know you guys wrote a song called Crows, and I can't find it anywhere. But it was about, it was on the Kickstarter page as being like witnessing the murder of a large group of crows, which inspired the song, which I think is really cool. But it also got me wondering, like, how does a large group of crows get murdered? I don't want to make you guys relive any trauma in that, but what happened there?
Easy answer. You're slightly confused. A group of crows is called a murder of crows.
I was like trying to.
Yeah, I should remember that.
I was like,
yeah.
Did we? Where did that?
No, we were at a park and there was a
murder
of crows, which was just a large amount of crows. That's like with some like a pod of dolphins, or I think it's a school of fish, and I think it's an army of gorillas, which is amazing.
Really?
Kaleidoscope of butterflies, pandemonium of parrots.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, honey.
So
Yes.
we saw die. And the story behind the song is that we had our first ever rehearsal at Lewis's house, and he had like the old school like voice, or like a voicemail machine with a tape recorder in it. So we had a little cassette tape in it, and we recorded our first practice, and we had like 4 songs, and only one of them ended up ever being recorded. But Crows was just, for the people who donated, they got a copy of that cassette, not in cassette form, but as a CD.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
I still have the cassette. I got
It sounds horrible, as I recall. Like, the quality of
It
it is
sounds
not good.
awful.
we recorded over something which sounded like some sort of symphony. So whenever it would be like in between songs or like in the song, it would in and out playing into like like, and it had like crazy tape flutter, and it was cool. It was fun. It was so somewhere out there like 5 people have these songs, or 6 if you include me. But yeah. But no crows were harmed in the making of that song.
Well,
So,
I'm so glad that no crows were murdered, because I was so confused. And
yeah.
I love Freddie's answer to that. I think you're confused.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to shoot it down right away that you didn't have to worry about crows any longer.
okay, because I know that so many things inspired, music, and I'm glad that it didn't have to be the mass murder of animals,
Yeah.
I actually did have a question that might be good for this time, just based on the fact that you guys had a collaborative playlist. It sounds like that was filled with inspiration for the album. What were some of the songs on that playlist?
I know it's a really wide range, and it was, like Eden said, it was really cool to see what everyone was listening to and see what kind of inspiration people were drawing from just in their lives and in the songs they had been sending. We've been sending back and forth. So I know it really ranged. Like Lucy Dacus came up with a bunch. I know I sent a bunch of Janelle Monáe. I was listening to that a lot when right before we were recording. I know Eden sent a couple of Elliott Smith songs I never really dug. I'm trying to remember what else was. There was a ton of stuff on there. I think Lewis sent, like, in a row back to back. It was like a Brian Eno song and then a Miley Cyrus song, or maybe one. It was 2 different people, but I liked the juxtaposition there was good.
I think it was both them.
Yeah, which is awesome. Like, I think that kind of speaks to the fact that we all kind of have these tastes all over the place in terms of what kind of music we enjoy, and then what we end up bringing to our songwriting. It varies a lot, but I like that about us and about our collaboration and the songs that we write, just because even when songs have stylistically really different parts, especially on this record, I think they still sound like us at the end of the day, which is I don't know how we do it, honestly. Something happens in the studio. I think it's a lot to do with Jason. Yeah, another rambly answer. I'm sorry. We all have the curse.
Well, yeah, I think just another example of it is like while we were recording, and you've heard Devoted, so it has, a different feel than any of the songs on the last album, but we would be out in the alley behind the studio, and Eden and Dashiell would be jamming out to Avril Lavigne. So
yeah.
A lot of Avril.
Yeah, so like it was really just a mishmash of songs. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't have Spotify Premium until like a month ago.
Which is still so funny to me.
I didn't listen to any of the playlists. I also didn't contribute anything to it.
Betrayal.
I just showed up. Okay, so here's the thing: is I don't really like listen to that much music for fun. I listen to like podcasts and stuff. I have nothing new to. They definitely like influence what I listen to, rather than me having any effect on what they listen to. So, like, I if I could, and if someone told me that the Beatles were the only band that ever existed, I'd believe it and be fine with it. So, that's just like But here's the thing: is that if I have no like specific taste in any sort of genre. If someone just shows me a cool song, I'll listen to it, and I think it's cool. So, yeah.
I mean, that's one of the lovely things about putting out your album today. I mean, artists are less confined to a genre than they ever have been, so you guys can dabble in whatever you'd like to and just toss it all out there. And Ash, I like what you were saying about how, despite going through different different genres and different sounds, you guys still have your Atta Boy identity, which is at the end of the day, it sounds like a collaboration between the 4, 5, 6 of you or whoever's in the room at the time, which sounds lovely.
Yeah, it's an awesome thing. I feel really lucky, like Freddie was saying, to have this be our process.
Yeah. While we're on that note, what can we expect from the new album? I know it's supposed to come out June 26th, which is so exciting.
Yeah. What to expect? I think so on this album rather than the last, we have a few songs that are more character driven, if that makes any sense. Does it make sense to you two? Like, there are a few it's more like third person than rather from first person. There's a little more storytelling in some of the songs rather than like personal experience. Have you ever thought about it?
I hadn't.
No. But do you know what I'm talking? Do you know?
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Okay. So on Friday, we're announcing our next single is coming out May 29th, which is called Shade. And I think it's a really cool song, especially based on the little blurb that Eden wrote about what it's about. And after I didn't know until like a month ago what the song was about, and I just like thought it sounded cool and I was really into it. And then when I read what Eden wrote, I was like, oh my God, this song just got so much cooler.
So I had a strange dream about a set of twins, like a brother and sister, that lived in a big like castle estate kind of thing, that were like separated by, I don't think it was their parents, it might have been their adoptive parents or something, and they were just like driven to make a like long visual explanation short. They were just like driven to so much despair by not being able to be together that the like house was set up in kind of a square where there was like a courtyard in the middle, and both of their rooms were like apart, but they could have a window facing each other so they could kind of talk distantly. And then by the end of the dream, they like agreed to like fall to their deaths from their respective windows, which was just, it's really dark, but it really stuck with me for some reason. And then also I don't remember what I wrote. There's like a Morse code thing, like
you said they could talk through the wall.
Yeah, so they could talk through the wall with like using like Morse code. And I think the rhythm for the melody was sort of inspired by that idea. I don't know. It's really vague and it's clear in my brain, but it just sounds like kind of a crazy idea when I say it out loud. It also feels like it makes sense when I write it down on paper like I did to Freddie, but saying it out loud just sounds super stupid. But yeah, that's where I got the idea for the song.
And the written down version that Eden's talking about will be in the article that's debuting this single, that'll debut next Thursday, the 28th. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Can I ask Eden a question? I know it's your interview.
Please do.
Had you been reading like Steels at the time?
Hold on.
Because I know you were reading some Stephen King novels.
Yeah, I might have been, because we wrote it when Cav and I were living in Vancouver. I wrote it with my partner, who came up with the music for it, and then we co-wrote the lyrics together. And I think I may have been reading The Shining, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's funny that you just asked that.
Twins. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would imagine much less creepy twins. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember how they were in the book though. How the twins were in the book. I remember it's like way different than the movie.
Did they look like the kid from The Omen?
I think they're just like. Have you ever seen The Shining?
No, I said, did they look like the kid from? I know what the girls look like, but I'm talking about the boy
in
from
my dream.
Yeah.
Oh, a little bit. Sure.
Okay.
Who knows? I don't remember.
You would be the one who knows. So.
Yeah, I don't fucking know.
No, I love that answer, actually. I think that it's a really powerful idea that some things that are hard to put into words, you can translate through your music. And I'm really excited to hear that on May 29th or so. Or when do you say?
So the song will be debuted exclusively through, I believe, the Fader. On Thursday the 28th, for streaming on all platforms the 29th.
Perfect.
Yeah. Wait, did I answer the question? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, absolutely. You answered
Oh
it.
my God. Okay. Okay. Sorry, this is the longest I've talked to a group of people in a long time.
Isn't it strange?
Yeah.
Like,
It's really weird.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched a Julia Roberts rom-com and I saw her get really close to a stranger and I was just yelling like social distancing at the TV. It was wild.
I keep thinking that when I see stuff like, what are you doing? Don't stand so close to me. Like, oh no, this is fiction and also not set right now.
But it's a crazy time. And actually, that is something I wanted to ask you guys about, and I'll only keep you for another 5 or 10 minutes if that's all right with you guys. Do you guys have that?
Yeah.
Perfect. What's it like releasing your second album in the midst of a pandemic?
It's certainly less than ideal. I think that or at least I hope that the music can be sort of a relief for people, if that makes sense. Something to look forward to, something to enjoy in a time that I know is stressful for me, stressful for most people, I imagine. And so that is my big hope, is that it can provide some sort of like levity in what is otherwise a pretty trying time. Obviously, like things like touring obviously are postponed for now, but I would certainly hope that when things are okay again, in the sense of us being able to gather in big, we could do that again. So I think it's all stuff to look forward to, and I hope people just enjoy it. Yeah.
I think that music can be a really beautiful thing especially right now, just for people to connect to, especially in times with like social distancing. A lot of, social distancing and social isolation aren't synonymous, but it can often lead people to feel that way. So having something that is accessible to people and you can just click on Spotify if you are unlike Freddie and you have a freemium account,
I have it now.
Okay. Just making sure. I think it's a really beautiful thing. So, I understand it's not ideal conditions, but I'm glad that you guys are seeing it as an opportunity to, play with the cards you have, because I feel like that's what we're all trying to do during the pandemic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And like with all the messages, I mean, like we contemplated it. We're like, is this the right time to release music? And I think it crossed our minds and we were worried about it, but all the messages we're getting and now getting after we release a single are like, we want it now, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, so we were totally wrong about releasing it right now. Like you guys, so it's really amazing, all this, everything that's been going on in the arts community that people have been doing to support it and maintain it as much as they can, especially through donations to certain, like the Preservation Hall Foundation, and yeah, just like, you know, people doing concerts through Instagram with their Venmos, and there was a day that Bandcamp waived their like 10% whatever fee that they take, and that was the day that we did that was the day we started the No Kid Hungry campaign. So all of the money we actually made on that Friday came to us, and then we went to No Kid Hungry. It's really amazing what art is doing. It seems like it's one of the few things not dividing people at this point. People just like their music, and except for memes like about Nickelback, it doesn't seem like anything's like too really mean about artists in particular at this moment. And then, you know, there's feuds and everything, but that's just between artists and stuff. And aside from publicity or whatever, I don't care. But just seeing artists make music and making people happy, and we've got messages about making people happy and helping them through hard times, which is something I never thought I would ever hear in my entire life, is so amazing and beautiful to hear. And we're just so thankful that we have that kind of impact on people.
Yeah.
For sure.
One of my like favorite writers says like the best thing he's ever done is given people the opportunity of putting something into words, a feeling that they had and they weren't able to put in themselves. So I can imagine that having put out content like that and having it been received by people and landed on people and helped them through difficult times must be really a powerful feeling, especially during a time when people really need that. So it's
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and it's like, just on a personal level, I have anxiety and I go to therapy and I work through it, and just knowing and talking to people who are going through something similar, like you said about being able to put something into words that other people weren't necessarily able to do, just knowing that I'm being heard and that other people see me and understand and go through similar things makes me feel less alone. And any little thing that we can do to make anyone else feel less alone is so amazing, because I know how much that's done for me. So, I mean, like, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm trying to pat Dashiell and Eden and Lewis. And I just come in, I play guitar, I do my little thing. And you know, you're giving a platform for people to hear interviews with artists and get to know. This is really our first interview as a band ever. So thank you so much for doing this for us. And I hope people watching it are like, oh, I get to know a little bit more about these people I've been listening to, and it's cool.
I wish Lewis was here.
me too. Me too. You know, Lewis is a wild horse.
He is.
He really is.
He can't be tamed.
Yeah.
You know, since he's not here, I mean, if he were here, what would his comment be on this interview, if you don't mind me asking?
Let's see.
Yeah, you'd never fucking know.
Yeah, he would say something beautiful and poetic, and you just so wild and unguessable, I think. It's not a good interview answer, but that is the truth.
He's a wild card of the group.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Charlie?
He is the Charlie, yes. Absolutely.
Charlie, oh man. Wow. And what a beautiful opportunity this was to make an It's Always Sunny reference.
Oh, anytime. But yeah, Lewis would either, it's going to be one or two ways. He's going to be really, really sweet and then just say something funny, or then he's going to show up with a big energy and be like, this is so freaking cool that we're doing this. We're rock stars. So, was that close?
That was pretty good, Lewis.
Yeah, that's not bad.
At least halfway there.
Yeah, okay. That's cool.
I've seen him do an interview before, and honestly, like, could have switched him out right there. That was beautiful.
Yeah, he'd hang up, or we'd end this phone call, and he'd be like, "We're so freaking cool." And Lewis really just makes us all feel better about ourselves. He's so good at it. He's such a kind guy. So that's all I have to say about Lewis for everyone wondering about.
Well, that's lovely. And I think that, I really appreciate you guys taking this hour to hang out with me and talk to me about this and getting to know you guys a bit better. Because, yeah, it's really always exciting when you have some content that you can cling to and relate to, and you can put a face to the names behind it. So I really appreciate that opportunity, and I think that's a lovely sentiment, too, to imagine, like what you were talking about with therapy, There's going to be someone who goes to their therapist's office and brings up, like, a feeling that they're having, and maybe they cite Devoted or another song on their album as something that they can cling to and something that helps them explain how they feel. And that's a really beautiful thing, especially during a time when, Devoted has this feeling of isolation and loneliness to it because, I don't want to speak for you because, Eden, that's your song. But that's the feeling I get out of it. And maybe I can relate to it in a way that you didn't even intend. But still, that in itself is beautiful. So I really appreciate that. And I hope that you guys can hang your hat on that during the time of this pandemic. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you for
Eric.
having us.
And I'd like to apologize about my mustache that I totally forgot I had until right now.
That's okay, Fred.
All right.
You're rocking it.
You're rocking it, man. Hey, right
No.
now, beautiful time to experiment with some facial hair.
Yeah, you and Dashel are doing great.
Me too. I'm doing well too.
Yeah.
Eden, you and Dashel are like opposite sides of a spectrum right now, but I love them both. And Dashel,
That's what I make you guys think.
Dashel, you might have to give me some tips on the beard game. It looks lovely.
Thank you. Beard oil, crucial.
Oh my goodness.
Beard oil.
Oh man, beard oil is lovely.
Dashel, you're gonna start making beard oil
Oh yeah,
too?
I could ferment that.
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna go, you guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Yeah,
And thank you, boys.
Yeah.
And we'll be in touch.
Thanks.
Good luck with everything, guys. Cheers.
Totally.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.